Okay, so how do you EQ? That's a good question. Basically, if I'm going to show you that, I guess you need to have an understanding of what an EQ is, right? As you can hear, I'm not doing anything to my voice. I've used Toop here as a cool plugin to turn up the volume, right? So I'm turned up the volume with it. But other than that, no EQ. Now normally I'd be using this group right here, that's channel strip and noise reductions and stuff, and that would sound like this, right? So you can hear an example of that, but right, I'm just going to show you how I do it, and I'll give you an understanding of an EQ. So there's essentially two different types of EQs. One would be a graphic equalizer, which is something like this, right? And now graphic EQs, they go on set frequencies that have a set curve, all that stuff, right? And basically those, well, as you can see, this one fucks at 20 hertz, right? You can crank 20 hertz or turn it down, right? 63, oh, it's bass, right? And it goes in a range of lows to mids to highs. On a spectrum, say we get well, I'll show you that in a second, right? The mids are, believe it or not, the frequencies in the middle, and the highs are the frequencies over on the right. Those are the high frequencies, right? Those are the airy, breathy stuff. Well, not breathy, but you know what I mean. The mids are more of the tone, the general tone of your voice, right? That's what those ones do. And the lows are like the chunk, right? The mud or the girth, right? Now I'm going to go ahead and delete that and re-add it because I just fucked everything and I don't feel like retyping it. So basically, when it comes to a graphic EQ, there's not a whole lot you can do, right? Now this one's actually pretty cool. It's 7Q. It's a free EQ. I'll put the link in the description. But this has variable like curve high pass filter as well as a low pass. And what a high pass filter does is it essentially says everything below this frequency is going to get cut off, basically. It's not going to get turned down. It tries to just delete it, right? So say we do a curve, right, of 24 dB per rack. That's going to be much steeper, and you can see it in these diagrams here. Like, the higher this number, the tighter the curve is going to be as it rolls off, right? So if you use like 6 dB per octave and you go to say 55 hertz, right? Everything below 55 hertz is not getting cut off. So if I turn up 20, you're really not getting a huge difference, right? But if I turn that off, then you can hear there's an increase in bass. But basically, the point of that is, if there's a car going by or, you have an air conditioner, if you bump your desk, right? If I bump my desk without it on, hear all that rumble, but if I turn it on, all that rumble goes away, right? That's the purpose of it, because your voice, most voices, right, unless you're corpse husband or something, you don't really have anything around the 55 hertz range. Your voice really is kicking in around like 80 to 100 hertz, right? That's like most of your voice is. Now, with that said, I mean, you still benefit, I think, from like 60 hertz. So I don't ever cut below 60 hertz or like above. I mean, like 55 hertz is the most I usually do, just because that's enough to get rid of the rumbly stuff and still keep all of the clarity, like from the bass stuff, in your voice. So I don't go above that. As for mids, there's really only one annoying mid frequency in my voice that just so happens to be around 630, right? So I would probably turn that down a tiny bit. As for like 2K, I really don't want to touch that. And 200, 200 is kind of annoying in male voices most of the time. It's like the term is muddy, right? Or boxy, right? That's what that would usually do. Maybe I'll turn up to 63 a tiny bit, right? And this is if I have to work with like this EQ, right? I'm going to use a parametric every time, just because they're better, in my opinion. But that's the general idea of a graphic EQ, right? It's very specific, set frequencies. Now, moving on to the other type of EQ, which is the one I prefer using. We'll use Pro Q3 as an example, but you can use, say, instead of using Pro Q3, you could use the built-in Reaper EQ, right? That's just Re-EQ, right? Is it called Re-EQ? Yeah, right here. This thing. This is also parametric EQ. And you can actually see, God, I'm out of breath, dude. So say for example, in this EQ, say you're using Re-EQ, right? You would start off with a high pass filter, right? And high pass, like we said earlier, is just the, put that back to 1. Come on, go. No. Oh, that's not good. I want it to be like that. So yeah, 55 hertz is what I would probably do with there. Wouldn't change the gain. You can't really change the gain of a high pass filter. After that, I would find 200 hertz, right? Hey, like you can hear, the reason you want to get rid of 200 hertz is it's very boxy, right? And that's that whole terminology is just like, that's like the I can't give it, I don't know how to describe it without using the term muddy and boxy. That's like what you call it. You can hear what it sounds like though. Like it's unnecessary information that just creates a annoying frequency in your voice, and most male voices for that, that's just there. And usually I'll always turn that down a bit. It's every time I just do that. Another, in my opinion, pretty annoying frequency. Also, as far as parametrics go, obviously the gain in decibels is how loud it is, how loud or quiet that frequency range is, as well as the bandwidth, right? Or the Q, you'll see it as Q in some other frequencies, like in other EQs, I mean. Like, for example, in Pro Q3, that is called Q, the bandwidth, right? That's just called Q. And what all that is how narrow or wide the band is, okay? Say you have high Q, you can see it's going to be very narrow, but if you have a low Q, it's going to be really not narrow. Now, of course, for some reason, because Reaper is just the best DAW in the world, the lower the number, the I just think it's dumb. Every EQ I've ever seen, the higher the Q, the more narrow, and of course in Reaper, the higher the Q, the less narrow. I don't like Re-EQ for that reason, so we're switching over to Fabfilter. Hey. Another reason I like Fabfilter is you can, see that? You can isolate the frequencies. But we'll set up the usual EQ. I'll probably do like 36 dB per octave at 55 hertz. Honestly, I do like to turn up the Q. Okay, it looks like a bunch because it's. I usually put it to 30 dB per octave. 30 dB, not per octave. It's just this isn't for example like a volume thing. This is just telling like a graph, right? A maximum of like 30 dB. You can see, I would assume, like gain reduction or peaking, and you can really zoom in on it if you put it to 3. But I usually put it to 30 just to get everything, like. Because if you have like a really high one, I don't know why you would, but that should be useful for like EQ matching. But basically, I'll always start with a high pass filter, which in this is called a low cut. But that's all a high pass is. It's just a low cut. And obviously, for most people, most men around like 200 hertz, you're going to have that boxy frequency. So I'll turn that down, not that much, but say like a maximum of like 3.5. I'll just do that for this. But as well as that, there's that. See that really kind of a muddy bass frequency in my voice. I also like to turn that one down a tiny bit, just because that is annoying in me. But like when it comes to EQing, you got to tune it for your voice. Another frequency I really hate in my voice is always going to be like right around here. You hear that? It sounds like you're talking into a can, right? I love getting rid of that one, just because I cannot stand it. It sounds terrible in my voice. Outside of that, I mean, I can hear like a See how I'm doing that? I'm listening for the annoying frequencies in my voice. You can hear them. That's for that one right there is real prominent. And I just turn it down a bit. Like that's all you really do when you're EQing. You're just listening for the frequencies that stand out, and you get rid of them. Don't get rid of them, right? You just turn them down a tiny bit. And right, that's honestly all I'm gonna do. I could do more, but you can really start to overdo it pretty quick. I do like to crank the Q though, just like when I get real low. That gets accentuated a bit. Other than that, I mean, you really don't need to do much. And even then, I honestly feel like I'm cutting a little too much already. Like this might be too much right there. You don't ever want to overdo it when you're EQing. Like you see a lot of people and they'll be like, oh yeah, all the mids, you take them out. Oh yeah, I sound incredible, don't I? Listen to me, dude. Oh yeah, I sound amazing. That is not the right way to do it. You want to target the really prominent frequencies and just turn them down a bit. You don't ever want to go super overboard and do like a really big cut here of like 13 or 7 decibels or something, because that's important. That's important. Those frequencies there, these are what, like, especially from like, I want to say like maybe 400 or 300 ish up to like 2000. Like if I kind of isolate those, sort of, I make them accentuated. This right here, like this is that's what makes up your like entire voice practically. Like sure, the highs and stuff are cool, right? If you have, but that's it. That's like cymbals, right? Say for example, you're doing vocals, right? Like this. Okay, we'll just do it from the perspective of being in like a Discord call, right? Because most of the people who watch these videos are like, on Discord and shit. If you're in a Discord call and you get rid of all those mid frequencies, we'll look at it from the perspective of everybody else in that call is made up of those frequencies, right? So now if I have all those gone, right, and you can't fucking hear me, you just become background noise, because you're deleting what makes up your voice, so you never want to overdo it. And that's how compression works. That's it, man. Is there anything else I can think of? It's the basics. I'm not going to go into like, the notches and the band passes and the tilts and all that. But even then, tilts really aren't like anything crazy. Those are just like, you get an example of what they do just by looking at them. But yeah, that's all an EQ does. It's very basic, very simple. You just kind of fine tune the frequencies, and like this is what I like. Fuck, I almost knocked shit over. But this is, I just tuned it to what sounds good to my ears. You should do the same. Don't ever like follow a preset. Like if somebody's like, oh yeah, you have to use this preset from this YouTuber, like that's doing it wrong, because like, yeah, it's not your voice and you're probably not even using their microphone, so you want to tune it to you. And that's all I got to say. If you want something else done, just comment it and I'll get right on that. And you should also join my Discord so you can get help for free, because I don't charge people for that stuff because that's lame. All right, catch you later.